Two young children die after being found unconscious in a Yau Ma Tei flat with their father. A 19-year-old local student gets 180 hours of community service for insulting the national anthem. And US President Donald Trump says without Chinese students, US colleges will go to hell soon. Good evening. You are watching Cable News. I'm Evelyn Bai. Two children died after they were found unconscious inside a Yau Ma Tei flat. Their father was also found unconscious at the scene. Jeremy Zhu reports.
The incident occurred at a flat in Kam Wah building on Canton Road. Police officers responded to the scene after receiving a report from a female resident at around 3 p.m. She stated that her children missed a tutoring session and that she could not contact her husband. Upon returning home, she found the door locked from the inside. Firefighters forced entry into the flat, where they discovered the husband and his children, aged 8 and 3, unconscious, with a sharp knife recovered. All three were immediately sent to hospital for emergency treatment, but the children unfortunately did not survive. The case has now been transferred to the Yaoqing District Crime Unit for further investigation. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
A 19-year-old local university student has been ordered to carry out 180 hours of community service after being found guilty of insulting the national anthem during a World Cup qualifying football match last year. Lau Pun Hei, a second-year student at the Chinese University of Hong Kong, received a non-custodial sentence at Eastern Magistrates Court. The court heard that during the match between Hong Kong and Iran at Hong Kong Stadium last year, the defendant remained his head bowed and his back turned to the pitch throughout the Chinese national anthem. In sentencing, the magistrate noted that the case was relatively minor compared to similar offenses. The insult lasted just over a minute and did not provoke any reaction from others. Taking into account Lau's clean criminal record, low risk of reoffending, and capacity for independent reasoning, the court imposed a 180-hour community service order. Home prices in the city maintained their momentum to improve for the fourth straight month in July. The official home price index stood at 287.9 in July, up 0.4% from the previous month, further contributing to a cumulative rise of 1.05% in the last 4 months. However, in the first 7 months of the year, home prices still dropped by 0.45%, while the cumulative decline compared to the peak in September 2021 narrowed down to 27.6%. Prices for all categories of home increased, with small and medium-sized flats with an area of 752 square feet or less rising about 0.4%. Meanwhile, prices of luxury flats of size bigger than 1,722 square feet rose 0.2%. Separately and not surprisingly, the city's rentals maintained their upward trend, rising 0.56% in July month-on-month, and reaching the highest level since September 2019 after surging for the 8th straight month. Hong Kongers are once again reminded to brace for strong winds and thunderstorms tomorrow morning, with the chance of a standby signal number 1 being issued. The observatory said a standby signal number 1 may be issued if the broad area of low pressure currently developing in the northern part of the South China Sea develops into a tropical cyclone by tomorrow morning and enters within 800 kilometers of the city. The weather watchdog predicts that the South China coastal will experience strong winds and heavy rainfall in the next 2 days. However, it added that, as the intensity of the low pressure remains uncertain, unless it significantly intensifies or takes a path close to the coast of Guangdong, the chance of persistent strong winds in the city is expected to be relatively low. Political heavyweights and prominent figures in the city bid farewell to renowned educator Henry Hu, the late founding president of Shuyan University, whose soul rested in peace last month. He will be laid to rest beside his late wife, Chung Chi-yung, in the Hong Kong cemetery. Scarlett Chen reports.
Hu's two sons arrived early at Hong Kong funeral home, where Hu's funeral was held, making arrangements. Names on the pallbearer list included Regina Ip, convener of the Executive Council, and former Justice Secretary Wong Yan-long. As a respectful educator and barrister, Hu's funeral also saw the presence of prominent educational and legal figures, including Kenneth Ting, chairman of the Board of Governors of Shuyuan University, former Vice-Chancellor of the Chinese University, Empress King, and former Justice Secretary Elsie Leung. A portrait of Hu was crowned the father of Xu Yan, was displayed in the Morning Hall with a horizontal inscription praising his enduring virtues. The late educator will be buried alongside his wife, widely known as the mother of Xu Yan, in the Hong Kong cemetery. Hu had a distinguished career as a barrister and served as a member of both the Urban Council and the Legislative Council. Among his contributions, he pushed for 9-year free education in Hong Kong, advocated for the recognition of Chinese as an official legal language, and fought for better housing for residents in resettlement areas. In the 1970s, he and his wife co-founded Shuyuan College, which, under his leadership, became the city's first private university in 2006. Hu passed away on July 27th at the age of 105, surrounded by his family. The university will hold a memorial service on Saturday. Scarlett Chen, Cable News.
Despite people seeming to be more aware of their health and appearances nowadays, a study found that Hong Kongers in general lack awareness about obesity, prompting broader societal action to address the issue. The study, conducted by the Hong Kong Obesity Alliance in May and June, involved 500 individuals whose body mass index had been calculated based on their heights and weights, with a hefty 40% identified as overweight or obese. The study reviewed misconceptions about how obesity is defined. Among the respondents, 33% had a BMI of over 25, which is classified as obese, but only consider themselves slightly fat. On the contrary, among those whose weight was moderate or even underweight, more than 70% perceived themselves as obese. The group highlighted that obesity can lead to chronic disease such as high blood pressure, hypercholesterolemia, and diabetes, urging public education on the issue and recommending that citizens regularly measure both their BMI and waist circumference. Additionally, the Alliance urged the inclusion of new weight loss drugs in the standard drug formulary. U.S. President Donald Trump said he prepares to welcome 600,000 Chinese students to study in the United States to avoid the nation's college system from going to hell, marking a sharp U-turn from May this year, when Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced Washington will aggressively revoke visas for Chinese nationals. Speaking at the cabinet meeting, Trump noted a good relationship with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping, standing his ground on welcoming 600,000 Chinese students into American universities, a doubling of the current number.
But I like that their students come here. I like that other countries' students come here. And you know what would happen if they didn't? Our college system would go to hell very quickly. You'd have, and it wouldn't be the top colleges. It would be colleges that struggle on the bottom. And you take out 300,000 or 600,000 students out of the system. I like having, and I told this to President Xi, that we're honored to have their students here.
Trump reviewed his plans on Monday ahead of a meeting with South Korean President Lee Jae-myung, which marked a sharp pivot from Washington's announced plans to aggressively revoke visas issued to Chinese students in May, including those associated with Chinese Communist Party or pursuing certain critical fields, and strengthen the scrutiny of visa applications from mainland and Hong Kong. The U.S. president's shifting stance sparked criticism from members of the Republican Party. Georgia Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene spoke out against the idea, questioning why letting Chinese students exploit American students' opportunities. U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick defended Trump's proposal, saying that without those 600,000 students, around 15% of U.S. universities would go out of business. The Israeli military has stated that its unlawful killing of 5 journalists on Monday was intended to target a Hamas camera and not the journalists, adding that it will further investigate the decision-making process behind the attack. Jeremy Zhu tells us more.
Nasser Hospital, the last remaining public hospital still functioning in Khan Yunis, Gaza, was hit by 2 consecutive Israeli airstrikes on Monday, killing at least 20 people, including 5 journalists, drawing fierce international criticism. An initial Israeli investigation claimed the target was a camera located within the hospital grounds, believed to be used by Hamas to monitor Israeli military movements. The military stated it decided to neutralize the threat and that the operation resulted in the deaths of 6 members of Hamas and Islamic Jihad. It added that the journalists killed were not the intended targets and expressed regret for the civilian casualties. Hamas has strongly criticized Israel's account as baseless, arguing that even if a surveillance camera was present, there were other ways to destroy it without resorting to tank shells aimed at a hospital. Due to lingering discrepancies in the incident, Chief of the General Staff of Israel, Eyal Zamir, has ordered an expanded investigation to examine authorization procedures and decision-making on the ground. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu described the incident as a tragic mishap. At the same time, he emphasized that the military is preparing to expand its offensive in Gaza City, reiterating its goals to secure the release of all hostages and ensure Gaza no longer poses a threat to Israel. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
U.S. billionaire Elon Musk's SpaceX got its troubled mega rocket Starship launched finally and completed the first ever deployment of 8 dummy satellites on Tuesday after months of failures. Bess Leung has more.
3, 2, 1.
The Starship blasted off from SpaceX's Starbase in southern Texas for its 10th test flight at 6:30 p.m. local time. The Super Heavy booster separated from the rocket and splashed down into the Gulf of Mexico a few minutes after launch. Staffs were cheering after the final dummy satellite was deployed.
Starlink. Seeing 3 engines.
Following an hour of coasting through the space, Starship splashed down into the Indian Ocean. The success follows a year of setbacks after back-to-back tests in January and March ended just minutes after liftoff, with wreckage falling into the ocean. Meanwhile, in May, Starship lost control 30 minutes after launch at the 9th test. The manufacturer later strengthened the fins of the Super Heavy booster for greater stability. Starship is the world's biggest and most powerful launch vehicle built to date, which is crucial to SpaceX founder Elon Musk's goal of carrying humans to Mars and NASA's plan to return astronauts from the moon. Bess Leung, Cable News.
Apple is gearing up for its upcoming fall product launch on September 9th, expected to introduce an iPhone 17 lineup. According to Apple's invitation sent to the media, the event would take place at 10 a.m. Pacific time, which means Apple fans in Hong Kong will get a glimpse of the much-anticipated products at 1 a.m. on September 10th, Hong Kong time. With the tech line all dropping this year, the tech giant has been launching new iPhones in September since 2012. The company is expected to woo customers by introducing a slimmer iPhone. The iPhone maker will also showcase its efforts to integrate artificial intelligence into its products, according to Reuters. The price remains undisclosed as the company contends with pressure from U.S. import tariffs, which affect products manufactured in its key production hubs like China and India. Now let's take a look at the stock markets. Hang Seng Index ended the day down 323 points. Top active stocks of the day: Alibaba was up 20 cents, SMIC was up 5 cents. Meituan was down $3.70, Xiaomi was down 30 cents. On to the weather now. Mainly cloudy with a few showers and thunderstorms. Showers will increase gradually with squalls tomorrow and will be heavy at times. Temperatures range between 26 and 30 degrees. That's our news tonight. I'm Evelyn Bai. Thanks for watching and good night.